Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. If you are new here, welcome. For those of you that have been here a while, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freak out tag. I feel like I'm the last person on YouTube to do this video, but that's just how my ability to film has shaken out this month. So yeah, let's get into it. I think it's been several years since I've done this tag, but this tag has been around for a while. If I can find the original creator, I will link them down in the description bar. And yeah, let's hop right into the question. The first question is the best book that you've read so far this year. Spoilers for an upcoming video. I am going to be posting my favorite books of 2022 so far. Either next week or the week after, but this is definitely at the top of that list. So This One Sky Day by Leonie Ross. I read this because of the Women's Prize for Fiction long list and was just gutted that it was not on the short list because it deserved to be. This is a book that's really hard to give a synopsis for or to talk about, because what's so great about this book is just how atmospheric it is, and like how layered and wonderful the story is. So this is about an island called Papisho or Papisho, where everybody who lives there has some sort of magical ability or feature or something like that. So something about them is extraordinary, and would be in kind of, you know, our society considered magic. So it's really interesting the different powers or features that these people have and how varied it can be. And one of our main characters that we're following, because we're following several characters, is a chef, and he was chosen as, I'm forgetting what the name of what they call him. Yeah, I'm blanking on what they call him, but basically his life's mission is to feed everybody on the island of Papisho, and each person gets a unique meal that's unique to them. So the way that Leonie Ross writes about food is so beautiful. The way that just the different things that happen, and there's also like an indigenous people that comes into the story, and like the lore around the island. It's just so interesting, and probably one of the most unique books that I think I have ever read. And I 100% want to reread this at some point, because I think I would get so much more out of it on a second read, because like I said, it's so layered. There's also a notorious part in here that I won't spoil that is a turn of events, but the way that plays out through the story is quite interesting. So yes, this is my favorite book so far this year. So question 2 is, what is your favorite sequel? And so far this year, it has definitely been A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. I actually haven't read that many sequels outside of like Animorphs or graphic novels, but this would still be it because this is absolutely lovely and charming. It's the sequel to A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, which is her new Monk and Robot series. And everything about this is just like comforting and sweet and thought-provoking. I'm actually currently listening to this audiobook as a reread, and it's just like I look forward to listening to it every time, because I feel like it just brings me this like warm fuzzy peace that I need in my day. And the story as a whole follows Dex, who is a tea monk, and Mosscap, who is a robot, and robots got sentient and then walked out into the wilderness and never came back, and have not contacted humanity in centuries. And Dex is the first human to encounter a robot in modern times, and it's about their interactions, it's about their friendship, it's about this outsider from society learning and questioning society, but also learning and questioning itself. And it's just so like reflective and contemplative and just lovely. I cannot say enough good things about this series. Then we have a new release you haven't read yet, but you really want to, and that could be so many. I've actually got 3 here, all from very different kind of genres. South to America, which came out in January, is a nonfiction by Imani Perry about the South and racism and like culture and how it affects America and the United States as like a country. So this I am really keen to read really soon. I want to read that before the end of the year for sure. Then I have A Little Bit Country, which came out in June, I think, and this is a YA queer romance set at, it's called Wanda World, but it's basically Dollywood, and this just sounds like it's going to be such a good time, and I am potentially going to Dollywood later in the year, and I just like kind of want to take this with me to Pigeon Forge and read it there, because I just feel like that's so appropriate. Also, this would be a great vacation read. And then the third one is When We Were Birds, which I am hoping to get to within the next month. This one is set in, for some reason I thought it was set in, yeah, Trinidad. And it follows 2 people, and it has to do with like, I think ghosts or something like that. And I think it is also a queer romance, sort of. It's literary fiction, so, you know, I think it has a queer romantic element to it. So this one is another one. So a little bit of a cheat, but these 3 are definitely ones I want to get to that were new releases this year that I have not yet. So my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, this would have been Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, but Jessica Townsend recently announced that that is going to be pushed back to 2023 to give her more time to write the book the way that she wants it to. So 100% worth the wait to get the book that she wants to write and the story as it should be. But that does mean that the second half of the year is a little lighter in the books that I am anticipated, mostly because I usually make kind of a list at the beginning of the year, and then as the year goes on I kind of forget about it with all the things coming out and whatnot. I would say that I'm really excited for A Restless Truth by Freya Marsk, which is the sequel to A Marvelous Light, which came out last year from Tor.com. That comes out in November, and the first one, A Marvelous Light, was like a queer male-male romance with magic and intrigue, and the new one coming out this year is sapphic, so it follows a different character that's in the first book, which I'm a little on the fence about whether that's what I wanted, but that's what we're getting. And I really like the character that it's going to follow, so I'm interested to see what that story is going to look like. And I'm really excited to read it because A Marvelous Light was such a good time. It was a really fun read, super engrossing, so I'm hoping that this one will be the same and be just what I need into that like winter cozy season. So biggest disappointment so far, that oh, if you've watched, I think it was one of my wrap-up videos, then you will probably see this one coming a mile away, but that is definitely The Burma Chronicles. I had high hopes for this graphic novel as being something that really explored Burmese culture, showed Myanmar from the point of view of an outsider, because I did know going in that the author was not from Myanmar. But instead what I got was just garbage. It was just a whiny person who was disappointed and annoyed by everything in there and wrote racist portrayals, drew racist caricatures of Myanmar people and made light of genocide, and it was just truly awful. And I threw that thing in the garbage. I did not even take it to the used bookstore. I recycled it because no one else needs to read that trash. So the biggest surprise for me was Good Mom on Paper, which is a collection of essays by writers on creativity and motherhood. And I am a little hesitant to be like full in on reading about motherhood, just because I think a lot of mothers feel this way, that they don't want motherhood to become their entire personality. So definitely a little hesitant about like the vast majority of books out there on the topic. But I have realized that I really enjoy essay collections. So be that essay collections by one author or essay collections by multiple authors on a specific topic. And this was actually sent to me by the publisher, Book Hug Press. And I didn't have, any preconceived notions going in on what this was going to be. But the thing that was so lovely about this book is, though it was, writers writing on creativity and motherhood, it was such a varied picture of motherhood, and it didn't necessarily just cater to writers. I feel like anyone could enjoy this, and just the different topics that they discussed and the different types of mothers was so interesting to read about, and I just absolutely loved this. And it actually gave me, or like made me excited to pick up other essay collections potentially about motherhood. And I picked up one a little later in the year, which I think I will show in this video based on the questions ahead. And I'm glad it did, because it's just been something that I have really, really enjoyed and gotten a lot out of. So this one for sure was my biggest surprise. For new favorite author, that has to be Claire Fuller. So I read Unsettled Ground last year for the Women's Prize for Fiction and absolutely loved that book. And what I loved about it was Claire Fuller's writing style. The plot was great, the characters were interesting, but her writing was just so good. And it made me want to pick out other things by Claire Fuller, because I had actually heard of both of these books prior to hearing about Unsettled Ground. And this is the one that I was actually most interested in picking up, and I wasn't sure that I would be interested in Bitter Orange based on the way people described it. But then I was like, you know what? I really like this author. I'm just gonna jump in, I'm gonna read them. So I picked both of these up. I read Bitter Orange in January, and then I read Swimming Lessons a little later in the year. And I really enjoyed both of them. The subject matter on each of these is so different from Unsettled Ground. I feel like Claire Fuller touches on so many different topics. I would say that if I had read Swimming Lessons first like I intended, I probably wouldn't have been as drawn to pick up her other books as I was because of Unsettled Ground. So I'm glad that I read them in the order that I did. But regardless, I still really enjoyed both of these and would pick up anything by Claire Fuller at this point. I think she has one more out already that I have not read, which I am definitely going to pick up later this year or early next year and read, but I would auto buy anything that she comes out with. So favorite fictional crush, which I always think this question is so funny in this tag, and it's a joy to see how different people with different reading tastes answer this over the course of the tag, or don't. I am not somebody who gets fictional crushes. Like I don't feel attached to characters in that way necessarily. But I will say that I was absolutely positively charmed by Steph in this book. So this is It Goes Like This by Neil Moreland, and this is about a band of queer teen girls who they get famous when they're teenagers. Well, let me rewind and correct myself. Queer teens, period. When they're younger, they are a girl band, and then they split up at some point because of a lot of different things going on, a lot of tensions, a lot of, things they want or don't want. And this follows them in the present day, and you get to meet all the characters, see where they are now in their life, see how the breaking up of the band influenced their lives, and then you're also seeing the lead up to that breakup. So it's like a story that's like merging sort of, and it's wonderful. Steph, who's this one right here, is non-binary, and I don't think that's a spoiler because I feel like you know that very quickly the first time that Steph's perspective is introduced. And I just thought they were so wonderful. The way that they look after their family, the way that they interact with their bandmates, just warmed my heart. So if I had to pick a fictional crush, it would be Steph. And then as far as new favorite character, that is hands down Darius from Darius the Great Is Not Okay / Darius the Great Deserves Better. I love Darius. I want to protect him and just keep him safe all the time. He's the most wonderful character. And the thing about these books that really surprised me was like tea and proper preparation of tea is like weaved into these books. There's also a lot of little Star Trek asides and nerd moments, and Darius is so wonderful. These books are like coming of age stories about Darius dealing with mental illness, dealing with family relations, dealing with his identity as a mixed race American, and it's just dealing with his sexuality. It's all of these things but done in such a sweet way, and oh my god, I just love it. Darius is wonderful. All right, well, I tried not to repeat books, but for a book that made you cry, I couldn't not go with Darius the Great Is Not Okay, because I openly sobbed, like snot tears, full-on hysterical crying in part of this book. The like family dynamics and the struggling parent and the child kind of taking on that parent's struggles was so just like, it touched my heart deeply. And I cried so hard. So did I probably cry at another book this year? Yes, but like not to the degree that I cried while reading Darius the Great Is Not Okay. So for a book that made me happy, because I'm doing this a little later in the month, I'm going to use a book that I read in July. And that is I'll Show Myself Out, Essays on Midlife and Motherhood by Jessie Klein. Like I said when I was talking about Good Mother or Good Mom on Paper, I read this after reading that because I enjoyed that so much that I was like, I think I might actually enjoy this. And I picked this book up because I read an article that Jessie Klein wrote for either the New York Times or the New York Post called The Hero's Journey, which was motherhood as the hero's journey. And it touched my soul. It is so impactful, and I think that any mother could relate to it, but I feel like if you're a mom that sometimes feels a little disconnected from like the pop culture picture of what a mom should be, that it really would resonate with you, which is kind of where I stand on it. But this collection is so much more. It is laugh out loud funny. It is heartwarming. It is relatable, and when I say relatable, I hate that word, but I mean relatable in the sense of like, as a mom, I've had moments where, you know, I think, oh, am I being a really crap mom? Or like, oh, you know, I'm doing this differently than other parents would. But reading this, I felt so seen, because so many of the things she says and does in this book are things that I've said or done or thought. And I cannot say enough good things about this if you are the type of mom I am. So the most beautiful book that you've bought this year, and that definitely goes to the Waterstones Book of the Year edition of Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is gorgeous. I read this book in 2020, but I really loved it, and I finally was able to get my hands on this edition, which is absolutely stunning. Gorgeous end papers, gorgeous foiling on the naked hardcover, and then it has like a little bookmark. The pages just feel really nice. It's just lovely. So yeah, I was very, very excited about getting my hands on this, and it will be a beautiful collection, or addition to my collection. And the last question is, what are some books that you need to read by the end of the year? And typically I don't really have much of an answer to this question because I don't need to read any books by the end of the year. It's just what I want to read and what I prioritize. I do have an answer this year because I do have a video which I will link wherever I link it, which is these books will self-destruct in 6 months. So I would really like to at least attempt to read as many of those as possible. So you can go check that video out if you're interested in what the full list looks like. But the one on that list that I most want to make sure I read is this one, which is Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. This is kind of a coming of age story set in, I think it's in New York. I honestly don't remember now that I'm saying that. For some reason I have it in my head that it's in New York, but it may not be. But this just sounds like such an incredible story, and I've not read anything by James Baldwin, and I feel like that is a hole in my reading life. So I want to read this one because I don't want to unhaul it without reading it. So yes, this is the biggest priority on that list, but if you want to know the full list, then I will link it above and below. Alright, so that is the mid-year book freak out tag. I finally did it. If you have any comments on the books I have mentioned, I would love to hear those down below. If you have done this tag, let me know. I'd love to check it out. And yeah, keep a lookout for that favorite books of 2022 so far. It will be upcoming in the next couple of weeks. And until then, I will see you next time. Bye!